It's time now to switch gears and talk about a very important conversation, especially ones that we're having with our children. And so as global tensions are rising throughout the world, so are very heavy conversations around the dinner table as well. And so we're speaking with Dr. Carole Lieberman to talk about how we can navigate through these heavier conversations with our children, allow them to be educated, not spooked, and also informed. So thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you.
Of course. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it. You are the expert here. So what are some of the mistakes that parents are making when it comes to talking to their children, especially about war and terrorism?
Well, the biggest mistake that parents make is not talking to them, because parents feel awkward. They're afraid to scare their kids. They think that maybe if they don't talk about it, it'll pass and kids won't know about it or it won't happen. And of course, that is the biggest mistake, because kids do know about it. They're confused. They don't understand it. Even grown-ups don't understand it. It's very hard to understand these days what's going on. So, of course, you have to talk about it according to the age and the psychological maturity of your children. But, you have to assume that whether it's by television or the internet or their friends, that they are talking about it and they're very confused and probably scared, sad, mad, or feeling bad.
You mentioned a lot of those emotions. There are a lot of psychological feelings that children are going to have when it comes to hearing news like this, no matter how you break it to them. So what can you do to ease some of those psychological emotions?
Well, a good way to start is to take off from something. Like if you just the news came on and you turn off the news and say, what do you think about what that was? Or you purposely look on the internet and look for some kind of an article or some story or a map of where Ukraine is and Russia is and whatever other countries are currently having problems. And then you try to get them to tell them how they're feeling. What have you heard these days? What do you think is going on in the world? How are you feeling about it? And some kids, you will be able to talk verbally, express their feelings. Other ones, you're going to have to help by giving them a simple thing, a piece of paper and crayons.
You spoke a lot about the psychological effects it has on children. You spoke a lot about tips and tricks on how to navigate through it, how to kind of symbolize a lot of heavier topics and kind of get on their level. Let's also talk a little bit about something that they might do when they're not even realizing it, which is nightmares. A lot of these conversations can provoke them whether they hear it from kids at school, whether they hear from their own parents, whether they see it on the news or online. A lot of these things can provoke some night terrors. So what would you say to that?
Yes, that is true. Well, you can sort of develop a habit of asking kids in the morning about their dreams, make it a fun thing. For example, when coronavirus was happening, I guess we're still not 100% over it. One of the kids, grown-ups and kids, were having coronavirus dreams, dreams about getting sick, seeing people in the hospital, having little bugs crawling on you, that kind of thing. So same thing with war. Kids can be having all kinds of, they hear little fragments or they remember little fragments, and those things stick in their head and they get symbolized by monsters, for example.
A lot of this really does sound like children are feeling very helpless. You did speak to that a little bit about how people can comfort them, how their parents and, older figures can comfort them in sign of helplessness. Talk about a little bit about ways that children can also build resilience when they're not around their parents 24/7.
Yes. In my book, Lions and Tigers and Terrorists, Oh My, How to Protect Your Child in a Time of Terror, the first half of the book is for grown-ups, parents and teachers, and the second half is a picture book for kids. And so both for the parents and the grown-ups part, I have 88 things that parents can do and teachers can do to build resilience. And for the kids, I have 10 things that they themselves can do. So some of those things for the kids are, first of all, keeping themselves physically healthy. That would include like eating healthy food and taking vitamins and getting enough exercise and getting enough sleep and that kind of thing. Then also doing well in school, with the motivation being to be able to grow up and have some kind of job that will help your country. Not to watch violent movies or violent video games, anything violent. to go out and enjoy yourself, to not let the whatever is going on in the world take away from your being able to enjoy yourself and take away from your freedom. And what else? In the case of terrorists, if you see something, say something. And then, of course, as I was saying earlier, the idea of having a plan, writing down the plan of what you're going to do if some kind of catastrophe happens.
Where can people find more information about you, Dr. Carole, and everything you spoke about today?
Well, they can go to my website, terroristtherapist.com, and they'll find all kinds of videos and advice, and they can get my book, an autographed copy of my book. And that can be helpful. People can find all that helpful.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carole Lieberman, for sitting down with us today, talking about a very important conversation. And remember, folks at home, these conversations are hard, but they're not impossible. And so for more information on how to speak to your kids on all of global tensions that are rising today, tomorrow, and in the future, you can find it all on livingeasttennessee.com. Thank you so much, Dr. Carole.